Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you want to know what's happening in the Finger Lakes? We do too. We're going in depth with decision makers in the heart of upstate New York to get the answers you need. From the team of FingerLakes1.com, this is Inside the FLX.
Today we're talking with Canandaigua Mayor Bob Palumbo about City Council's April meeting. We have a ton to get to, including major points highlighted in City Manager John Goodwin's strategic plan. Mayor, thanks so much for being here. First things first, from your seat in the House, what were the biggest takeaways from last week's meeting?
Well, we did have some couple issues we took care of. One major one is that we've been working on for a while is the downtown parking plan, and everybody wants all-day free parking, and really can't do that. Actually, a lot of it was driven by the merchants that wanted to see time limits, which we do when we are bumping it to 2-hour parking from hour and a half in the time spots. We added more handicap parking closer to the stores. We've also been trying to work on some on-street parking, which has turned into quite an issue as far as DOT regulations and what's required for that. But we are working on that. We've had several residents ask about more on-street, or not more, just on-street handicap parking. There are quite a lot of regulations around that. We are working on it. We did a few months ago hire a part-time police officer to monitor the parking downtown, which as always hasn't gone over very well with some the ticketing. But there is a lot of free parking, all-day parking, and it's just a matter of everybody wanting to be as close as they can. So we are working on those issues, and we have come up with a new parking plan, which will be adopted. Probably be adopted in the next couple of months to get that going forward.
As far as the parking plan is concerned, what do you think the big takeaway will be for the average city resident in terms of change from present circumstance?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that we are providing a little bit more of all-day parking. So that's that's a good point, especially for people that work and live downtown. That's one thing that's come up lately is that we did have had a couple of initiatives to second and third floor of downtown buildings to be apartments or short-term rentals. So we have a lot more, overnight parking downtown than we never had before. So we've had to accommodate that those people that are living downtown now, which is fantastic. Just makes downtown a little more vibrant, and obviously, if they're there, they're using their restaurants and shops. So as far as the average shopper downtown is to find a longer term parking, or I think the 2-hour plan would help if somebody's coming to a restaurant, just doing some shopping downtown. I think 2 hours is a pretty good time, gives them a little bit more than the hour and a half that we have to do. So I guess that's the biggest takeaway, is just a little bit more time to spend downtown.
How challenging is it navigating that, given the balance that has to be struck between, I'm sure, the desire for more parking and more access to parking in general, with the idea that, Canandaigua is one of the most walkable downtowns in the entire region. And I'm sure the volume of parking that you have in a city like that really does play a pretty big role in how much parking you can actually open up.
Yeah, it is a challenge, but we did last year we did a parking study for the whole city, from downtown to the lake shore, and what we found downtown was there is adequate parking. They went through several different times to, evaluate the parking, and there is adequate parking. As someone said, we don't have a parking problem, we have a people problem. Of course, everybody wants to be within sight of where they're going. And, my takeaway is, if you look at the malls, they're parking quite a distance from when it's full. You're parking quite a distance to the mall and then walking within the mall to where you have to go. In Canandaigua, we could park, behind a store. Like you said, it's very walkable. You can be from one side of the main street to the other. My wife and I went down yesterday and we walked, both sides of Main Street and stopped at a couple of stores, and, we were about an hour and a half total.
Yeah.
So if, everybody wants to be right in front of where they're going. So if a little bit of patience and, now we have some good weather and might have to walk a little bit, but there is adequate parking. The study shows that. There's, a couple off-street lots. We do have enough signage, I think, that points to the public lots. So just a little bit of patience, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this strategic plan from the city manager. Seems pretty comprehensive, all things considered. Before we get into some of the specifics from it, when you looked it over, what were your biggest takeaways from it?
Well, I thought it was very good. We had an all-day work session a couple of months ago, and we all, especially with new council, was good. We have several new members on council, so to get some, current thoughts, updates on our, previous plan and what the interests are, was a very good session, and out of that, we put together the strategic plan. I think, it was pretty comprehensive, I thought, pretty much across the board. Some of the big ones that there's a lot of interest in is housing, affordable housing, workforce housing. That was a big takeaway, and that's a big concern of several council members, and myself, and major initiative from the governor this year has been, affordable housing and more housing. So I think if we're looking at, the next DRI that we might apply for, a lot of that could hinge on what we come up with for housing plans. Canandaigua was we don't have a lot of open space. We don't have, there's two projects. One we talked about that, it's not really affordable housing. And we understand that anytime you're doing a project from scratch, that it's going to be very difficult to have, what the state would consider affordable or workforce. So that's a challenge. We do have, hopefully, our label on building project, which is another, part of our initiative, is to move forward with some of these projects that have kind of been stagnant, and that, there is a developer for that project now, and hopefully that'll move forward. And his plan is workforce, in that workforce price point. So hopefully that'll move forward. Another one came out of there, staffing. We want to maintain our staffing levels, and to work more with our local representatives to see what we can do to get more, the aid that I think we needed to make this work.
Yeah. It's interesting looking at the breakdown on the report, it's strengths, weaknesses, threats, opportunities. I look at that strengths list downtown, council manager relations, the park system, schools, environmental record, city government staff, finances. And then I look at the weaknesses side of that, tolerance for tax increases, stalled vacant developments, infrastructure, community engagement, housing. Seems pretty stock, but when I look at that list of strengths versus weaknesses for Canandaigua, it seems like Canandaigua's in a pretty good spot.
We are, and I think that's part of the perception that why we're having a hard time. I think we're on our seventh round with the DRI, and I think that's part of the perception. If you drive down Main Street, everything looks rosy. We've got it's busy, it's vibrant. Obviously, the lakefront tourism is very good. You get a block or two off Main Street, that's a different story. We do have issues with housing. We do have issues with low income. With we're on the border. A lot of people are on the border of the poverty level, and you don't see that. And I think that's the that's the perception on the state level too. We've tried to differentiate ourselves between the city of Canandaigua, and the town of Canandaigua. The income levels are different. Property value levels are, average property price points are different between the city and the town. And I think that's one thing that, our strategy of working with our local, with our representatives, that's the point of that we're not, Canandaigua's not all Ferraris and Porsches and that kind of thing. So we're blessed that we have a lake. We're blessed that, we can have the tourism and the people that are here. But there is another side to it as well.
I'm curious, when it comes to stalled developments, this is a gripe that I think people have in every community, no matter where they are. They look around and they sort of cherry pick the vacant spots or the empty lots that they want to, be a little frustrated about or share their grievances about. What if you're sort of picking out a couple, two or three priority points that you think would go a long way to easing some of the concerns that residents have in Canandaigua? What are they in terms of the ones that maybe City Council could help work toward getting moving in the next year or so?
That's a tough one. Obviously, that's two parts. We have several projects that, could move forward. The problem is, or the issue is, what can City Council do towards that? So, obviously the ones that are the most visible, I mentioned the label on building. It's been a blight. It's been empty for 30 years. There have been some good projects coming and going. I think COVID kind of stalled things for everybody. And then the prices, once we came out of COVID, are what hurting some of these. So, we have that. We have the Tom's Mobile property that hasn't moved forward, but developer ready to go. It's ready to go, and then, I know they're all, have to make money to make these things work. So coming out of COVID and what the price point of materials are at, he's still in it. He's still in the game. Maybe a fall start, I hope. That's the word. Obviously the lakefront, the Pinnacle, the North Shore project, that group's gonna come back with a proposal. So it's just gonna be a matter of working with them. It's hard to how much we can do. We can advocate for them to do. There's a lot of housing money out there. So those are the kinds of things we can do to help move those along.
Talent attraction, that is identified as one of the threats. Obviously, I recall doing some interviews with folks who were running for City Council, and a few of them who were elected to City Council this past cycle. Talent attraction, especially given that Micron was coming to Central New York, obviously a little ways down the thruway, but is that one of the areas that you're at least hopeful that the city can cash in on in terms of talent attraction, or what do you think the priorities should be there in terms of attracting young families and folks, young professionals like that to Canandaigua?
Well, that's, obviously Micron's a little far down the road, but there are some in the town of Canandaigua, just up the road. There were a couple of big companies coming in or expanding along that same field. And, obviously that's, we want to, capitalize on that. And I think that's where Canandaigua really shines. If anybody is looking at coming here, to take that kind of a job. If you look at our schools, you look at our hospitals, we've even heard one of the things is that we've actually heard that keep your downtown vibrant, because, as families come in, that's what they want to see. Schools, hospitals, they want to see what services we provide. And we have, good police, good fire department, crime rate. Those are the kinds of things that I think will bring, people to Canandaigua. We've seen a lot of people moving here from out of state, whether it's for retirement or for a job or to move closer to family. We've seen that, and we've all heard good things from them and what they like when they come here.
I have to ask, tolerance for tax increases. That's one. No matter where you are, nobody wants their taxes to increase. Obviously, it's a little tougher, I would imagine, in a place like Canandaigua, where you have paid firefighters, paid police, you have services, more ample services to accommodate each year in the budget. As you look forward in terms of like from a strategic planning standpoint, what stands out to you in terms of maybe effectively communicating to folks who are in Canandaigua, understanding exactly what they're getting for their tax dollars?
Well, we do. We provide, as far as our services, I think, like I said, we do have a, career fire department, career police department, fully staffed. And, we have, one thing that a lot of communities don't is we provide, garbage and recycling pickup, weekly. And a lot of communities don't do that, or have private, companies do that. And it's a great savings compared to, sometimes it's been brought up, well, what if we drop, our recycling and garbage pickup? It would be, if we say maybe, $50 a homeowner, the city dropped it, but it would be, could be 2-3 times that if they had to go to private hauler. So that's a great service that we provide. So the message is, that I've said years on council, is that we're running a business, and just like any business, you have to have the money to pay the bills. You have to have the money to provide the services. We have a strong contingency that we have to carry because things come up. And the years I've been on council, there's been rightfully so, we want to hold the line to try and stay under the tax cap, and it's been challenging to do that. As you go through the years, things come up, and then your fund balance dwindles, and potentially get into trouble at that point. So there's got to be a balance. We have to move forward. We've got a lot of projects in the works. We do have good relations with the town and other communities that we work together on. We have one unique thing about Canandaigua is that we have our water resource recovery facility, or sewer plant, nicer name, water resource recovery facility, and we have our the water plant. We distribute water to several communities. Canandaigua is about 10,500 people, but overall we serve about 70,000 people through our water plant. And, so that's, we have to keep that going. And of course, there's always increases on water rates and sewer rates, and our contract with those to the other communities that we deal with. So it is a challenge, and I think we've done pretty good with it so far with the services we provide, and we'll continue to do it.
Hey, I have to ask, because it's going to be about 70 degrees here in another day or two. Sun's going to be out, but we're probably going to see some showers, maybe even some thunderstorms a lot of folks, as spring starts to roll forward, you mentioned infrastructure. A lot of people are going to think back to some of the flooding that happened last summer. That was identified as a priority area, a major one from this plan. What can you tell us there in terms of what City Council is doing as people start to think again about summer thunderstorms and the potential again for some street flooding and even some residential flooding too?
It's definitely a priority and has been, and been a lot of work on it. Some behind the scenes, some right out in the open that we've dealt with. Working a lot with Kevin Mulvaney, our watershed director, and we've done, as far as the city itself, we have done and will continue to. And the plan is to line a lot of sewer lines. We're getting a lot of infiltration into our sewers that were, causing trouble with, stormwater backup. As far as the outlet through the city and so that's where the big work is. And our major focus there is mainly outside the city, but to improve our, holding capacity for water and rain when that comes through. So working with Kevin Mulvaney and his team, we've identified places that work can be done. The city and town have both put in money towards that cause. We are looking at, through the city, we have an RFP out for engineering to look at the bridges over Sucker Brook that are they pinch points, choke points for the water. So there may be some major, overhaul there. Last week, maybe over the weekend, I know it rained pretty heavy. Well, last week it rained just about every day, I think. And everything went smoothly. I mean, if any backups, the work that has been done through the cemetery and around North Pearl Street and that area that have been cleaned up, we're working well. We didn't get any flooding. So it's a continual progress project, and we are working on that and planning on having probably in May a community meeting. Have a little more information by then about engineering work that's going on, and just have I want to have a community meeting to let those folks know that are through that area as to what's going on and what's gone on up until now.
I was going to say, infrastructure work, it takes time, of course, right? A lot of these problems are maintenance issues that will be, require maintenance for many, many years to come, even with infrastructure upgrades. Do you feel better now about where the city's water infrastructure is now versus where it was last summer when things really, came to a head with that one particular storm in July?
Yeah, I mean, that brought a lot of issues to light. Obviously, we called it a 500 or 1,000-year storm, but that was just, and that's not to say it's going to be how long again. I think that was kind of a freak thing, the way that the storm, where it landed, a mile one way or the other, probably wouldn't have the issues that we had. But it did open up a lot of, it brought a lot of issues to light that we needed to work on. And, and we are. So I feel a lot better about it now than what we did in the past.
All right. And my last question here for you before we get you going. Any action on the red light cameras from a couple months ago, or are we in the same place with that?
No, nothing new. Nothing new there. Still waiting for, to see where our local representatives feel about it. And if they don't move it forward, it's, kind of a dead issue. So it could be a couple months before we ever, before that comes up again.
All right. Mayor, appreciate the time. As always, we'll be talking to you next month.
All right. Very good. Everybody gets a good shot at the eclipse today.